about precipitation reactions. Then I'm moving forward to the agglutination reactions. Before that, let me do a quick revision on precipitation reactions. Then I will go to the agglutination. So let me share a short PowerPoint with you. Just let me know if you see the PowerPoint. Okay. So just tell me if you see it. Can you see the PowerPoint, students?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
Yes,
yes,
sir.
yes.
Yes, sir.
Very good, very good, very good. Okay, so okay, so I will do a quick revision on precipitation reactions. Then I will go to the agglutination tests. So um, let me go into the beginning. So we are discussing about antigen antibody reactions. So here we have many types of antigen antibody reactions. So we have precipitation reactions, then we have agglutination reactions, we have immunodiffusion reactions, we have complement tests, immunofluorescence tests, radioimmunoassays, and enzyme linked immunosorbent assays. Then here we discussed about in detail about precipitation tests. So we have different types of precipitation tests. So we have precipitation test, flocculation test, and immunodiffusion test. Flocculation tests are two types: slide flocculation test and tube agglutination, tube flocculation test or Kahn's test. Then we discussed about immunodiffusion test. Immunodiffusion tests are of three types: basic immunodiffusion test, immunoelectrophoresis. Okay, I excluded other one. Okay, electroimmunodiffusion I discussed, and I removed this immunoelectrophoresis. So directly we can see only two types: basic immunodiffusion test and electroimmunodiffusion. In basic immunodiffusion, we have four types: single diffusion in one dimension, which is called Odin procedure; then double diffusion in one dimension, which is called Oakley-Fulthorpe procedure; then we have double diffusion, sorry, single diffusion in double dimension, which is called as radioimmunodiffusion test. Now, there is one more word, students, I forgot to tell you. This radial immunodiffusion test is also called as Mancini test. Mancinni. It is also called as Mancini test. Okay. So then we have, yeah, Mancini test. Mancci. Mancini test. Then we have fourth one, which is double diffusion in two dimension, which is also called as Outerluni procedure. So these are the four types of basic immunodiffusion tests. Then we have three types of immunoelectrophoresis. One is counter immunoelectrophoresis, rocket immunoelectrophoresis, and L'Oreal two-dimension immunoelectrophoresis. So these are the three types of immunoelectrophoresis. Now I will show you the exact pictures of these tests. Okay. Now I will show the pictures. See here, very important. So first I discussed about precipitation. So precipitation test means if the antigen antibody complexes sedimented into the test tube, means sedimented into the bottom of the test tube, means such reaction is called as precipitate or precipitation reaction. Now if it is floating on the surface of test tube, means then it is called as flocculation test. So this is the flocculation test. So in flocculation test they will become floccules, they will start floating on the surface of test tube. So that is why they are called flocculation test. And this flocculation test we have two types: slide flocculation test and the tube flocculation test, which is called Kahn's test. Okay. Then we discussed about the immunodiffusion test. So in the immunodiffusion test we have four types. So the first one is single diffusion in one dimension test. So single diffusion in one dimension test is this one. So I have a gel, then I placed this gel has the antibody and I placed a drop of antigen. So the antigen started migrating into the gel, and at one point it became precipitated. At one point it became precipitate. So this is the ring test. Okay. So this is a single diffusion in one dimension test. Then we have double dimension in the double diffusion in one dimension, right? Double diffusion in one dimension, right? Yeah, double diffusion in one dimension. So in case of double diffusion in one dimension, you both antigen will migrate and antibody will migrate in the test tube. So first I will add antibody, then I will add a layer of normal gel, and I will add a layer of antigen, and both antigen and antibody will migrate into the gel. So that is why it is called double diffusion in one dimension. Then we discussed about other tests. So this is double diffusion in one dimension. This is antibody, this is antigen, and this is plain gel. In the plain gel, both the antigen and antibody migrated and they become precipitated. So this is a double diffusion in one dimension test. Okay. And this is single diffusion. In single diffusion, I kept a gel with already antibody, then I added antigen. So antigen started migrating into the gel. So this is called single diffusion in one dimension. Sit in my back side. So this is called single diffusion in one dimension, and this is a double diffusion in one dimension. Is this clear so far, students? Is this pictures clear for everyone? You can sit
Yes, sir.
near my back.
Yes, sir.
Directly you can see my laptop. Okay. Okay, so this is single diffusion in one dimension, and this is double diffusion in one dimension. Then we discussed about single diffusion in two dimension. So this is single diffusion in two dimension, which is called radio immunodiffusion, or also this radial immunodiffusion is also called as Mancini test. Just now I said, right? This radio immunodiffusion is also called as Mancini test. So here I will take a rectangular glass slide. I will coat it with antibodies along with gel and antibodies. Then I will keep a antigen and it start migrating. So this is single diffusion in two dimension. Then we have, this is example for single diffusion in two dimension. Usually we will use this single diffusion in two dimension for antibiotic sensitivity tests. For antibiotic sensitivity test, we will use this kind of approach, okay? And then we have double diffusion in two dimension. So double diffusion in two dimension occurs like this. So both the antigen and antibody, okay, both the antigen and antibody we will place in the different wells, and we will place a plain gel. So both the antigen and antibody will diffuse radially, okay, in both the directions. So that is why this is called double diffusion in two dimension. So this is the actual diagrammatic representation of a double diffusion in two dimension. Okay, so that's it. I'm not going into depth. This I will discuss later when you're coming for offline classes. Then we have immunoelectrophoresis. So immunoelectrophoresis means here we will apply electroimmunophoresis. Okay, immunoelectrophoresis, or yes, electroimmunodiffusion, right? So immunoelectrodiffusion, we have three types. What are the three types of immunoelectrodiffusion we have? Tell me, students, three types of electroimmunodiffusions. We have counter immunoelectrophoresis, rocket electrophoresis, and L'Oreal two-dimension electrophoresis. So this is rocket immunoelectrophoresis. So here I will take a test tube. I will keep different types of antigens, and the gel already it is pre-coated with gel, and this gel has antibodies. Now what I will do is I will apply electricity, negative charge and positive charge. So the antigens will start migrating upwards like this. So since the migration will leave a rocket-like figure, that is why it is called as rocket immunoelectrophoresis. Okay, so rocket electrophoresis. Then see, this is rocket electrophoresis. So I have applied. This is all about the rocket electrophoresis. Then we have L'Oreal two-dimension electrophoresis. So in case of L'Oreal two-dimension electrophoresis, what I will do is, first I will keep an antigen and I will apply electricity in this direction. So antigens will get separated. After separation of antigens, now I will keep electricity in this direction, negative and positive. So the antigens will start migrating from bottom to top. So this is called L'Oreal two-dimension electrophoresis. So this is all about electrophoresis. Now I will, this is how we will separate the serum proteins. In the blood serum, in the serum, we have many types of proteins. Basically, these proteins are divided into 5 types. Okay, alpha, beta, I forgot those names, gamma and delta proteins. I hope you know what are those serum proteins. Those serum proteins will be separated by using our immunoelectrophoresis only. So most of the proteins will be separated by immunoelectrophoresis. Okay, so this is all about the immunoelectrophoresis. Then I will start discussing about agglutination tests. So before discussing about agglutination test, you can sit in. Okay. Before discussing about agglutination test, let me show you a clear difference between how an agglutination reaction looks like and how a precipitation reaction looks like. Okay, sit. I think Prashant cannot see you.
No, sir.
Okay, all right. Okay. Now let us discuss about agglutination reactions, agglutination test. First, I will show you the visual appearance of agglutination reactions and precipitation reactions. So this is an example of precipitation reaction. In case of precipitation, since a small size antigen, which is soluble antigen involved, so the reaction looks like a sand granules. The reaction looks like a sand grain. See, you can see like a salt, a small salt sand grains. So this is how a precipitation reaction looks like. Whereas agglutination looks like this. A very large clumps can be seen. So clumping and large particulated clumping can be seen in agglutination reaction. Since in agglutination, the particulate antigen involved, so the reaction will be very prominent. So compared to precipitation, the agglutination will be very prominent. And I said wrong in the morning class. Agglutination reactions are more sensitive compared to precipitation reactions. That is what the statement is. Okay. So this we need to see. It is a okay. Tell me, Mahi.
Sir,
Okay. What is this blood group?
AB negative.
AB negative. See, very good, Sunil. See, Sunil became. Sunil is my best student. AB negative. Perfect. Anyway, so this is blood. Yeah. Anyway, Mahir also will learn. He needs some time. Mahir is not. Don't underestimate Mahir. Very smart. Okay. Anyway, Mahir knows even bigger concepts. Okay. Okay. So anyway, listen. So precipitation reactions and agglutination reaction. Now you know the clear difference between how a precipitation reaction looks and how a agglutination reaction looks, right? So this is the major difference between an agglutination and precipitation reactions. Someone call me. Okay, so this is all about agglutination test. Now, just to tell me the 5 types of agglutination test. So please write down the types of agglutination test. Can anyone tell me? I think, yeah. Anuj? Yeah. First one is slide agglutination test.
Yes, tube.
Very good. Someone said tube agglutination test. Very good. Tube agglutination test. Tube agglutination test. Then third one.
Antiglobulin.
Very good. Antiglobulin test.
Combs test.
Globulin. Combs test.
Yes.
Test, yes, sir.
Globulin
Heterophil.
test
Right.
or antiglobulin test is also called as
Haptophil agglutination test.
Combs, sir. Combs.
Coombs test. Antiglobulin test is also called as Coombs test. Okay. Why it is
Passive.
called Coombs test? I will tell. Okay. Coombs test. Then fourth one.
Haptophil.
Heterophil.
Very good. Heterophile agglutination test. See, I was very happy. Many students telling answers. Heterophile agglutination test. So fourth one is
Passive.
heterophile
Passive.
agglutination test, and fifth one.
Passive
Very good.
agglutination test.
Passive agglutination test. Passive agglutination tests. Passive agglutination tests. Very good, students. So these are the 5 types of agglutination tests we have. Sorry. Okay. So we have slide agglutination test, tube agglutination test, antiglobulin test or Coombs test. Then we have heterophile agglutination test and passive agglutination test. Now, kindly write other variations. I'm just making it some more complicated. These Coombs tests are of 2 types. We have 2 types of Coombs test. Okay. So they are direct Coombs test, DCT. Okay. Direct Coombs test, and other one is indirect Coombs test. Indirect Coombs test. So we have 2 types of Coombs test. One is direct Coombs test and other one is indirect Coombs test. If not, this is also said as direct antiglobulin test and indirect antiglobulin test. Both are same. Okay. Direct antiglobulin test or indirect antiglobulin test or direct Coombs test and indirect Coombs test. Okay. Then in the heterophile agglutination test, we have 3 types of test. Kindly write the names. We have 3 types of heterophile agglutination tests. So kindly write the names first. So we have 3 types of heterophile agglutination tests. So those are Valley-Felix test, Valley-Felix reaction, Valley-Felix reaction, Valley-Felix reaction, Valley-Felix reaction. 3 types of heterophile agglutination tests include first one Valley-Felix reaction, Okay, WEIL, Weil-Felix reaction, and second one is Paul-Bunel test. Second one is Paul-Bunel test, PAUL, Paul-Bunel test, BUNNEL, Paul-Bunel test. I was really proud of Salamuddin. Paul-Bunel test. Morning he didn't write any. Sorry, Sunil Bhatti. Morning he didn't write any written notes, but he said the answers. I think Sunil Bhatti is like a robot. Huh? He will just record everything like a scanner. Okay. All right. Anyway, so we have three types of heterophile agglutination test. One is Weil-Felix agglutination test or Weil-Felix reaction, and second one is Paul-Bunel test, and third one is Streptococcus agglutination test. I was not satisfied. Let me cross verify it. Sorry for interruption. Let me check the word properly. Streptococcus MG agglutination test. So the third one is Streptococcus capital letter MG agglutination test. Streptococcus agglutination tests. Okay, Streptococcus agglutination test. So these are the three types of heterophile agglutination tests we have: Weil-Felix reaction, Paul-Bunel test, and Streptococcus MG agglutination test. Okay. Then coming to the passive agglutination test, I will keep another color so it will be easy to say the difference. So this passive agglutination test we have once again three types. Okay. Passive agglutination tests are of three types. So I will write three types on the top like this. So we have three types of passive agglutination tests. Okay. So the first one is latex agglutination test. Latex agglutination test. So this is latex agglutination test. Latex agglutination test. Latex agglutination test. Then second one is heme agglutination test. Heme agglutination test. Heme agglutination tests. Okay. Heme agglutination tests. And third one is co-agglutination tests. Co-agglutination tests. CO co-agglutination tests. Okay. So co-agglutination tests. So from next class onwards, I will bring my tab, so it will be easy for me to write on it. Okay. So yeah. So these are the three types of passive agglutination test we have. We have latex agglutination test, heme agglutination test, and co-agglutination test. So these are the complete spectrum of agglutination tests we have. We have 5 types of agglutination test. So listen here. Anuj. Dear Anuj.
Yes, sir.
Are you following, Anuj? Is everything clear for you, Anuj?
Yes,
Any
sir.
doubts for you? No
No,
doubts,
sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Anuj. Okay. So we have 5 types of agglutination test. See,
Yes, sir.
sorry. Okay. What is this? Slide agglutination test. We have tube agglutination
Tube,
test.
so agglutination
Antiglobulin
test,
test
comb
or
test,
Coombs test. Then
Hey,
heterophile agglutination. Very good, Anuj.
or
Tell me.
passive.
And passive agglutination test. And what are the types of Coombs test, Anuj? Tell me types of Coombs test.
सर कुम टेस्ट नहीं लिख पाया सर.
Anuj, antiglobulin test is also called as Coombs test, Anuj. Okay. Antiglobulin test is also called as Coombs test, Anuj. Here we have 2 types of Coombs test. Coombs test or antiglobulin test is same. Okay. So we have 2 types of Coombs test: direct Coombs test and indirect Coombs test. Is that clear for you, Anuj?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Then we have 3 types of heterophile agglutination test. What are the 3 types, Anuj? Tell me.
Willy.
Weil-Felix reaction.
Streptococcus.
MG agglutination test.
और
And what
एक
is this,
होता
Anuj? What is this?
What, sir?
Paul-Bunel test.
Paul-Bunel test.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
Paul-Bunel test. Then coming to the passive agglutination test, we have 3 types of passive agglutination test. Can you tell me, Anuj, 3 types of passive
Sir,
agglutination test?
heme
Ah.
agglutination test.
Very good. Latex
Latex.
agglutination test.
और
Heme agglutination test.
test.
And co-agglutination test. Okay. So these are
Yes,
the
sir.
types of agglutination test we have. Now let me discuss about individual test. So first I will discuss about slide agglutination test. Okay. Sorry. So slide agglutination test. So this is slide agglutination test. So the best example for slide agglutination test will be blood grouping. Very simple. You will take a drop of blood, you will add a drop of anti-sera, corresponding anti-sera, and you will get reaction. So this is slide agglutination test. So here what I will do, I will take, for example, my blood is A group. My blood group is A group. Okay. Now what I will do is, I will take 3 drops of blood in a glass slide. Now I will add 3 antibodies. Okay, I will add 3 types of antibodies. I will add anti-A antibodies, then I will add anti-B antibodies, okay, and I will add RH antibodies. That is a different story. Okay, I will add RH antibodies. Okay, these are RH antibodies. Now when I add, instead of antibodies, we will say anti-sera. When we are saying anti-sera contains antibodies only. In the reagent bottle, we will add yellow reagent, blue reagent, right? That reagent contains antibody, students. Okay. So when I add A antibody to the blood, if it agglutinated, if it has A antigen, means A antigen will bind with A antibody and they will clump. So this is A antigen is positive. So blood group might be A positive. If B antigen also got reaction, means AB blood group. If it is negative, means AB negative. If it is positive, means AB positive. So this is how you will do blood grouping by slide agglutination test. So because of this agglutination, because of this antigen antibody reaction only, Karl Landsteiner universally standardized blood groups. See, a simple immune concept. Simply an antigen will bind with antibody and it will give reaction. With this simple concept, he divided blood into 3 types. A blood group, B blood group, AB blood group, or O blood group. 4 blood types, right? So how fascinating it is. A simple antigen antibody reaction given the Karl Landsteiner the power to universally standardize the blood groups. So that is the a great contribution in the field of immunology. And this is how we combined immunology with other branches of medicine. A very smart way of doing tests. Anyway, for this purpose, Karl Landsteiner received Nobel Prize in 1930. A great achievement by Karl Landsteiner. This is all about blood grouping. I hope I need not to say much about this. So this is B. Okay, group B, group A. What is this? Group O. I think this is reverse blood grouping. Okay. This is actually this is A group, right?
Yes,
this
sir.
should be B group, this should be AB, and this should be O. I think this is reverse grouping. Forgot about this. This is reverse grouping where they took sera and they added known red blood cells. So this is reverse grouping. So reverse grouping, don't worry now. You will get absolutely confused. So only see here. Okay, just forgot about this slide. Okay, this is all about reverse grouping. I accidentally captured this slide. Okay, leave it. Anyway, now you got a slide agglutination test, right? So this is all about slide agglutination test. Then I will move on to the tube agglutination test. So tube agglutination test will be very important at quantifying the antigen in the sample. So this will be the titer. So the highest dilution where we will see reaction will be the titer, and this is the place where the antigens and antibodies are equal. So we can able to easily quantify the amount of antigen present in the patient sample by tube agglutination test. Okay, so this is the tube agglutination test. Okay, so the major use of tube agglutination test is to quantify the antigens in the patient sample. So that is all about the tube agglutination test. Now I'm moving forward to the Coombs test. Yeah, really challenging. So listen to me carefully to understand this concept. Okay, so let me start discussing about Coombs test in detail. Now I will discuss about Coombs test in detail. Kindly pay utmost attention from now onwards. Okay, so kindly pay utmost attention. Everyone, if possible, start writing notes for this topic. Okay, so listen to me. All online students, are you following me?
Yes, sir.
Online students?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So please kindly pay utmost
Ji,
attention
sir.
to this. Very good, Anuj. Very good, Anuj. Okay, so coming to the Coombs test. So kindly pay attention. Now I will discuss about Coombs test. Okay, listen to me. I will give one scenario, I will give one incident, and you just analyze the incident properly. Okay, so here the incident is I will give two cases. Okay, so I'm dividing this slide into two parts. So let me divide this slide into two parts. So I'm dividing this slide into two parts. Arey yaar, not satisfied. Okay, so see here, students, I will give two types of case studies. Listen to me properly. Two types of case studies. Listen properly. Now I will introduce a word called sensitization. I will tell something called sensitization. What do you mean by sensitization? I will tell you. Listen carefully. Okay. So I have, in first case, I have a red blood cell. I have a red blood cell. Now this red blood cell, for example, this red blood cell is RH positive. It is RH positive blood group. It is RH positive blood group. Okay. To this RH positive blood group, just a second. Okay, let it be like that. I will continue. Listen, it is a RH positive blood group. I'm just giving example. Don't take it as an assure. Okay, so I have RH positive. Okay, let me be even more precise. Why I should go much more confusions? So listen to me. Okay. So here I have a RH negative blood. I have a RH negative blood. Okay, so this is RH negative blood. Okay, so this is RH negative blood only. This is RH negative red blood cell. It is RH negative red blood cell. Now to this RH negative red blood cell, an antibody will bind. A mysterious antibody will bind to this RH negative red blood cell. Okay, a mysterious antibody, an RH positive antibody binded to this RH negative blood, for example. Okay, now this antibody is an incomplete antibody. This antibody is an incomplete antibody. It is not complete antibody. It is an incomplete antibody. Please keep in mind, it is an incomplete antibody. It is an incomplete antibody. So an incomplete antibody binded with an antigen, but since it is an incomplete, it didn't lyse the red blood cell. It didn't kill the red blood cell. It didn't agglutinated the red blood cell. Okay. Now, in order to detect this incomplete antibody, in order to make this reaction, what I should do is I need to add secondary antibodies. I need to add a secondary antibody. Now I will add a secondary antibody. See here. Now I will add a secondary antibody to it. When I add the secondary antibody, I will get reaction. Okay, please remove the AC. Okay. Now, when I add the secondary antibody, it will react. The red blood cells will lyse. The red blood cells will lyse. Okay, the red blood cells will lyse. This concept is called as sensitization. Binding of incomplete antibodies to the surface of red blood cells is called as sensitization. But sensitization doesn't mean getting reaction. In order to find these sensitized red blood cells, I need to add secondary antibody to detect the primary antibody. To detect this incomplete antibody, I will add a secondary antibody. Okay, and this secondary antibody is called as okay, listen to me very, very clearly. I will tell the name of this secondary antibody. Just to pay attention. Antibodies are also called as immunoglobulins. right? Antibodies are also called as immunoglobulin. That means it is a globulin. This antibody is a immunoglobulin. Now I'm adding an antibody. I'm adding an antibody that will attach to the primary antibody. Listen to me. I added a secondary antibody that is binding to the first antibody. It is not binding with antigen. That means this is anti-antibody. That means this is anti-globulin. This secondary antibody is a anti-globulin in nature. It is anti-antibody actually. It is anti-globulin. Anti-globulin. Antibodies are also called as globulins. Keep in mind. So upon adding this secondary antibody will bind with primary antibody and I will get a reaction. Okay. So by adding the secondary antibodies, I found that red blood cells are sensitized with incomplete antibodies. So sensitized red blood cells is detected by adding secondary antibodies, and these secondary antibodies are called as antiglobulins. Okay. These antiglobulins are also called as, this reagent is called as Coombs reagent. This reagent is called as Coombs reagent. Coombs reagent. Okay. Okay. So this is the first case. So in the first case, already red blood cells sensitized with incomplete antibodies. Now I added secondary antibodies. Upon adding secondary antibodies, I got reaction. So this is a direct step. So here I just added my reagent and I got reaction. I added secondary antibodies and I got reaction. That is why this test is called as direct Coombs test. This is called as direct Coombs test. This is called as direct Coombs test. Now you may ask me a question.
Second reagent is also called as Coombs reagent.
Yes, secondary antibody is called as Coombs reagent. Secondary antibody has three names. Secondary antibody is also called as antiglobulin, or it is also called as Coombs reagent. Okay, secondary antibody is also called as antiglobulin or Coombs reagent. If I add antiglobulin and if I got reaction, means that is direct Coombs test. Okay. What is the significance of this test? Why we are doing this test? What is the significance? Let me tell you the significance of it. I hope you remember erythroblastosis fetosis. Did you know what is erythroblastosis fetosis? Let me tell what is erythroblastosis fetosis. Students in online, are you following my lecture?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Very good, very good. Please listen to me. I'm justifying the direct Coombs test. Now I'm justifying the direct Coombs test. In what condition we will see these kind of incomplete sensitized red blood cells? Now I will tell you. Please pay attention. Now I have a mother. I have a mother, and this mother has she's a pregnant mother. Okay, she has a pregnancy. Okay, so she has a pregnancy, and this mother blood group is negative blood group. Mother blood is negative. Okay, she has, for example, she is O negative blood group. Okay, she is O negative, but her baby, she has a baby, a small baby, and this baby has positive blood group. And this baby has positive blood group. This baby has positive blood group. Okay, listen to me. Now, during delivery, this baby may come through the pasteurization, through the cervical canal, or we may also do cesarean. By cesarean or by natural delivery, baby will come outside. When baby coming outside, some of the baby blood may leak into mother's blood or not. This is mother's blood. Some of the baby blood may leak into mother's blood. Is it possible or not? Tell me, students. Is there any chance that baby's blood enters into mother during delivery? Is there any chance? During cesarean?
Yes, sir.
There might
Yes,
be
sir,
some
it's true.
possibility.
Yes, sir.
During placenta, in the placenta we will have blood. Maybe some placental blood may leak into the mother's stomach, mother womb, right? Or through mother's vaginal cavity, cervical cavity. So some of the baby positive blood may enter into the mother's blood circulation. If that happens, now mother immune system will get activated to these positive antigens. Baby positive blood will act as an antigen to the mother's immune system. Now, mother immune system may develop antibodies to this baby's blood. Mother immune system may develop Rh positive antibodies. Mother will develop Rh positive antibodies because mother immune system has been sensitized with baby's positive blood, right? Now what will happen in the mother is, listen to me, this is mother's negative blood, this is mother's negative blood group. Already mother is negative blood group, right? Now on the mother's negative blood group, it will have positive antibodies. The mother's blood has been sensitized with positive antibodies. Now what will be the problem with these antibodies? The real problem is here. Now this mother once again became pregnant. Now second time also mother has a baby. Unfortunately, second baby is also positive blood group baby. Second baby is also positive blood group only. Will you agree or not? Will mother blood enter into fetal circulation or not? By the way, let me tell one important thing. Very, very important. These antibodies are IgG antibodies. These mother developed antibodies are IgG antibodies. Now tell me students, what antibodies will cross the placenta? Do you remember what type of antibodies will cross the placenta?
IgA.
IgA or IgG?
GG.
IgG, right? If that is the case, mother already have positive antibodies in her circulation. Will these positive antibodies kill the baby? Will these positive antibodies will go to the positive antigen and it will destroy the baby blood. So baby will become jaundice and baby will die. This condition is called as erythroblastosis fetosis. This condition is called erythroblastosis fetosis. In erythroblastosis fetosis, a negative mother will develop positive antibodies and these positive antibodies will kill the second positive baby. I think you already remember that many times you will see in the hospitals, by born the baby has jaundice. Many people will say by birth baby has a jaundice. Baby kept in an incubator, baby kept in a UV incubator, baby has jaundice. They will say, you know why they will say jaundice? Because this is the condition. Maybe mother has some antibodies, that antibodies kill the baby. Okay, now how can I protect this baby from mother's immune attack? In order to protect my secondary baby, what I will do is, I will collect mother's blood. If I collect the mother's blood, if she has sensitized with this antibodies means, definitely if I add antibodies, I will get reaction. If I got reaction means, I will ensure, what I will do is, believe it or not students, we can do a blood transfusion to a baby who is inside the mother's womb. Do you know that? We can do blood transfusion to a baby who is in the mother womb. What I will do is, we can transfuse, yes, by keeping under sonography, ultrasonography, you will slowly inject blood into the placenta, the placental cord of the baby. I will not enter blood directly to the baby, rather than I will enter to the placenta. I will give blood to the placenta. Don't worry, it won't be some 1 or 2 liters of blood. It will be only some 10 to 20 ml. That is enough. It is a chota baby, right? Anyway, what exactly I will do is, I will transfuse these antibodies to the baby actually. I will transfuse anti-Rh positive antibodies. So it will be neutralized. I will transfuse anti-Rh antibodies. So Rh antibodies will bind with these antibodies and they will neutralize in the baby. So baby will get protected from mother's immune attack. So this is called erythroblastosis fetosis. In erythroblastosis fetosis, we will find sensitized red blood cells, and these sensitized red blood cells can be detected by direct Coombs test. I think that concept becomes somewhat complicated. Is it clear for everyone? Dear Anuj, dear everyone, all online students? Is the concept clear for you?
Something, sir.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes,
Slowly, slowly
Simon,
sit
Eric,
down.
everyone, please ask questions. Yeah, yes, Anuj and everyone. What is your doubt?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Simon.
Sir, I
Tell me,
have got
Simon.
doubts in the
Mm, mm.
I have a got doubt in the adding of secondary antigens while the first antigen was added. Why are you adding the secondary antigen in case of the first antigen antibody?
Why I am adding secondary antibody? I'm not adding secondary
Yeah.
antigen. It is secondary antibody. Why I am adding secondary antibody is your question, right?
Yes.
Yes, because the first antibody is not complete antibody. It is incomplete antibody. It is only incomplete antibody. To make incomplete antibody complete, I need to add a secondary antibody. So upon adding secondary antibody, it will become complete and we will get a reaction. That's it. Since it is an incomplete antibody, I'm adding a secondary antibody to make it complete. That's it. Okay. Now, you may ask me a question. You may ask me an important question. Listen to me. How I got secondary antibodies in the first place? How is it possible to synthesize secondary antibodies? How it is possible to synthesize a secondary antibodies? Is that a valid question? How I synthesized secondary antibodies? Listen to me. Okay, listen to me. Very interesting. Very interesting. Listen to me. So this is a cat. Okay, this is a cat. Okay, this is a stupid cat. Okay, for example. Okay, this is a cat. It's not looking cute, but it is a cat, I assume. Okay. Okay, it is a dangerous cat. Okay, so this is a cat. Now, listen to me, students. Okay, it is a mad rabbit. It is a pagalwala rabbit. You can feel like. Okay, anyway, whatever it is. Now, what I will do is, listen to me very carefully. I will take incomplete antibody. I will take incomplete antibody. Okay, a non-incomplete antibody. Now, I will inject this incomplete antibody to a rabbit. When I inject this incomplete antibody to a rabbit immune system will treat this antibody as an antigen. It won't treat it as an antibody. Rabbit immune system will treat this as an antigen. So I injected an antibody into the rabbit, which is incomplete antibody. Now, rabbit immune system will think it is an antigen and it will develop a secondary antibody. Rabbit will develop secondary antibody because for rabbit it is a antigen only. For rabbit it is outside protein. Right? For rabbit it is an outside protein. So that is where rabbit will develop secondary, it will develop antibodies, and these antibodies are secondary antibodies, we can say. Now what I will do, I will collect the rabbit blood and I will filter the secondary antibodies and I will use these secondary antibodies for the Coombs test. These are the Coombs reagent. This is how we will prepare Coombs reagent. So direct Coombs test is very important for detection of sensitized red blood cells. Sensitized red blood cells with incomplete antibodies. So the red blood cells that are sensitized with incomplete antibodies can be detected by adding secondary antibodies. If you add secondary antibodies, you will get reaction. That is called as direct Coombs test. Is direct Coombs test clear for everyone or not? Any more doubts in it, in this topic? It looks like complicated, but it is really interesting if you understand the concept. Students in online, please give me a confirmation. If you have any doubts, please ask me your doubts. I will clarify it. Dear Preeti, Kumari, Ashish, Deepak, where are you?
Sorry, sir. Someone needs to remove me out.
Don't remove like this, students. See, I cannot scold you. I need to teach my classes. See, don't do like this. Simon, is it clear? Eric, Simon, Eric, please ask me questions, Eric and Simon. Azad, Anuj.
Yes, sir.
Is everything clear?
Is it secondary antibody, are they the same with the first antibody?
Huh?
Secondary antibody, antigen antibody, are they the same? The first antibody that you are added to the red blood cell, are they the same or different?
From where we got primary antibody? That is your question, Simon. Where we got this primary antibodies? Is that your question?
Yes, sir. I was just comparing between the first secondary antibody and the secondary antibody. Are they the same or different?
They are different. That is fake. Whatever, see students, there is something like a letter circulating in the WhatsApp groups like from February 2nd onwards mandatory offline classes. That is fake. That is a fake news, and there is no official statement from the university or any authorities. Until we are telling you, don't believe any gossips. Until me, Ashwans or any other faculty telling you, don't fall in the traps of these gossips. I am telling it is a fake. Is that clear for everyone? Okay. But definitely you need to come for offline classes. It is under process, and we will tell you the actual instructions and guidelines. Please wait for our instructions. Okay. But from 2nd February onwards, it is not mandatory to come university, but university is in implementation. We will definitely give a new instructions. So kindly wait until we are telling you. Okay. So that's what I want to tell. Okay, so that's it, students. I think, Simon, for you, I will tell the story again. So kindly watch here, Simon. Sometimes what happens is, Simon, listen, this is an antigen. Sometimes our immune system will develop incomplete antibodies. It will develop antibody, but this antibody cannot kill the antigen. Okay. It is an antigen and this is antibody, but sometimes our immune system will develop antibodies that are not complete antibodies. It is an incomplete antibody. In case of incomplete antibody, it won't have any reaction. So even though this incomplete antibody binded to antigen, but it won't cause any reaction, and this concept is called as sensitization. Antibody binded to antigen, but there is no reaction. This is called sensitization. In order to make it react, in order to make this reaction complete, we need to add a secondary antibody. Upon adding secondary antibody, we will get a reaction. Usually, this sensitization we will see in erythroblastosis fetosis. Erythroblastosis fetosis is a condition where a negative mother will have a positive baby, and that will cause erythroblastosis fetosis. That you can Google it and you can learn from the YouTube. Okay, erythroblastosis fetosis. That is all about direct Coombs test. Now let me discuss about indirect Coombs test. So indirect Coombs test is very 1000 times important for blood transfusion. In blood bank, indirect Coombs test plays a vital role. Now I will discuss about indirect Coombs test. Kindly pay utmost attention. Let me take a new slide. Let me discuss about indirect Coombs test. Okay. So let me discuss about indirect Coombs test. So here. Now, is everyone following my lecture, students? Anyway, I recorded this lecture. I will keep in YouTube. Go through it, okay, until you are getting idea. Or if not, you just see some random videos in the YouTube also, in the Hindi also. Okay. I don't have any issues regarding that. Now, let me discuss about indirect antiglobulin test. So my next topic is indirect Coombs test. My next topic is indirect Coombs test. Now listen to me. Listen to me very carefully. Now I have two patients. Okay, I have two patients. It would have been nice if I'm teaching you hematology also, because yeah, I'm a correlate both immunology and hematology. Okay. Anyway, listen. It is still fine for me. No issues. See here, I have two patients. So this guy will give blood to the recipient. So he is a donor. So donor will give blood to the recipient. Okay. He is giving his blood to the recipient. Now listen their blood groups. Listen their blood group. And you just tell me thing. Okay. So in first scenario, his blood group is B positive. His blood group is B positive. Okay. And this person blood group is A positive. Can I do this? Can I transfuse this blood to this boy? What will happen? Already in his blood, he will have A antibodies. These A antibodies will go for A antigen and it will get reaction. So I cannot go for this blood transfusion. Now listen to me. That is why before every blood transfusion, we will do blood grouping. Okay. Okay. So you are saying that we must do blood grouping. So let me do one thing. I performed blood grouping and I came to know that donor blood group is B positive. Okay. Donor blood group is B positive. And recipient blood group is B positive. Can I transfuse this blood? Can I transfuse this blood to this boy? I can, right? I will transfuse. Okay. After transfusing this blood, what happened, you know? What happened, you know? Yes. What happened means something unexpected happened. Something really unexpected happened. Blood clotted. Blood reacted. There is agglutination in the blood. There is agglutination in same blood group. Blood has been clotted. Patient got reactions. Recipient got reactions. But we don't know the reason. Same blood group. But when I transfuse this blood group to the recipient, he got reaction. Is it possible or not? Is there any chances like this to get reaction in the same blood group? Is there any chance like that? No, right? Students? Students? Is my question clear for you? I have same blood group patients. Even though, see, simply I took a glass slide. I added B positive blood and I added B positive, a drop of B positive blood from donor and I added B positive blood from the recipient. I mixed them and I got reaction. Actually, I should not get any reaction if it is same blood group. Then why I got reaction? Okay. Is my question clear for you? We got reaction in the same blood group.
Yes, sir.
And what is the reason? Now I will tell a reason to you. Listen. Maybe, listen to me. In the donor, some abnormal antibodies may present. In the donor, some abnormal antibodies present. We don't know what are those antibodies, but definitely, yes, those abnormal antibodies reacted with patient's B positive blood group and that resulted in agglutination. In the donor, he has some abnormal antibodies. Maybe these abnormal antibodies reacted with the donor's blood. And that is why I got reaction. Is that clear for you? Maybe donor blood has some abnormal antibodies and these abnormal antibodies reacted with our recipient blood group. That is why I got reaction. How to detect these abnormal antibodies? So that is why in every transfusion we will do something called cross matching. We will do a test called cross matching. You know what is cross matching? Listen to me very carefully. We will take donor serum. And we will take recipient red blood cells and we will add them in a slide. I will take a slide. On this slide, okay, I will add recipient red blood cells and I will add donor serum. Donor serum will contain antibodies and I will see is there any reaction. If I got any reaction means I don't go for transfusion. Even though same blood group, but still donor may have some abnormal antibodies and those abnormal antibodies may react with my recipient cells. This is called as major cross matching. We have two types of cross matching, okay? Major cross matching and minor cross matching. So in major cross matching, we will take donor's serum and recipient cells and we will mix together and we will see any reaction. Okay. So this is called major cross matching. And there is another test called minor cross matching. Minor cross matching, as the name suggests, it is minor. Here we will take donor cells and recipient antibodies. There is no clinically important. We only require this one. Okay, we only require major reaction, major cross matching. Anyway, Let us discuss in detail about this patient scenario now. Let me discuss in detail about this patient scenario. Forgot about blood transfusion. Let me discuss here. Now, in this blood group, in this patient, in this donor blood group, he has antigen and antibody, but this antibody did not bind to the surface of red blood cell. Both antibodies, abnormal antibodies, and the red blood cells are freely floating in the blood. Okay, both red blood cells and antibodies freely floating in the blood. That means, listen to me, listen to me. I have abnormal antibodies in the patient body. These are abnormal antibodies, and this is patient's red blood cell. Both of them are in freely floating. That means these antibodies did not bind to the red blood cell. Okay, they are not sensitized. Okay, if this is the case, if I add secondary antibodies, will I see any reaction? If I add Coombs antibody, will I see reaction? No, because red blood cells didn't lysed. If red blood cells not lysed, I cannot say whether he has abnormal antibodies or not by adding secondary antibody. Right? This is secondary antibody, right? Secondary antibody, if I add, it will bind with primary antibodies, but there won't be any reaction. There won't be any visible reaction because red blood cells are freely floating. That is why what I should do is, I will do sensitization manually. I will do manual sensitization. Inside the body, there is no sensitization. Inside the patient body, both red blood cells and antibodies are freely floating. What I will do is, I will take the patient blood in a test tube. Okay, I will take patient blood in a test tube. Then I will incubate it at 37 degrees centigrade for half an hour. I will incubate this patient blood at 37 degrees centigrade for half an hour. Okay, for half an hour. When I incubate it, these antibodies will bind with the red blood cells. When I incubate, these antibodies will bind with the red blood cells. This is called sensitization. We did it manually outside the body. After sensitization, after incubation, what I will do? Now I have red blood cell and my abnormal antibodies binded to the red blood cell. Now I will add my secondary antibodies. So when I add secondary antibodies, I will get reaction. So here, this test is called as indirect Coombs test. This is called indirect Coombs test. In case of indirect Coombs test, incubation step will be included. I won't get reaction directly upon adding Coombs serum. Rather than I need to incubate the serum to get reaction. Okay. So usually we will do Coombs test 2 times. Listen to me very carefully. First, I will take a patient blood and I will add the serum, Coombs serum. I will add Coombs serum. If I got reaction, well and good. If I am not getting reaction, I will incubate this blood for half an hour and again I will add Coombs serum. If I got reaction means well and good, he has abnormal antibodies. Even after incubation, I am not getting, even after incubation, upon adding secondary antibodies, no reaction means negative. He did not have any abnormal antibodies in the body. So this indirect Coombs test is very important for cross-matching. For cross-matching, we need to incubate and we need to go for indirect Coombs test. Indirect Coombs test is very, very, very important for major cross-matching in blood transfusion tests. That is my final statement. Indirect Coombs test is very important for blood transfusion, especially in major cross-matching. Major cross-matching can only be performed by indirect Coombs test. Indirect Coombs test plays a very important role in identifying abnormal proteins, unsensitized abnormal antibodies in the patient blood. So this is all about Coombs test. So we have 2 types of Coombs test, direct Coombs test and indirect Coombs test. In indirect Coombs test, both antibodies and antigen are freely floating. That means they are not sensitized. That is why we will sensitize them by incubating at 37 degrees centigrade for half an hour. Upon incubation, upon sensitization, I will add secondary antibody and I will get reaction. So that is why it is called as indirect Coombs test. So this is all about Coombs test. Coombs test plays a very important role in transfusion reactions. I know the tests are becoming complicated, but this is the only complicated test. From hereafter, all other tests will be very simple. So this is all about Coombs test. I know it is somewhat challenging for you. Kindly go through some YouTube lectures, some YouTube Hindi videos, so you will get some idea about Coombs test. Okay, I will provide you the links. You just watch the links, so you will get some idea. So this is all about Coombs test. If you have any doubts, you can ask me now.
Sir, please open previous slide.
Hmm.
Yes, sir. Sir, if any reaction in this tube, sir, previous slide.
In this.
In this tube, yes, sir.
In what tube, Kaushal?
This tube. Yes, sir. If any reaction in this tube, so
So directly, if we got any reaction means we should not go for transfusion. We need not even do the Coombs test because we already got the reaction. But how can we expect, Kaushal? Will you think that B group and B group will give reaction? We won't think that. So that is why we will do this major reaction, major Coombs test. After doing major cross matching only, we will know whether we need to transfuse this blood to the patient or not, even though they are same blood group. So before blood transfusion, definitely we must do cross matching, and that is major cross matching. Major cross matching depends upon the indirect Coombs test principle. This is all about the Coombs test and things. Okay. Okay, in direct Coombs test and indirect Coombs test. If you still have any questions, you kindly watch this lecture in the YouTube, and also kindly watch some Hindi lectures to get some idea. I will provide you the links. Eric and Simon, if you still have any doubts, you text me in the WhatsApp. I will tell you. Okay, I will take a special class and I will tell you Coombs test in detail again, or I will provide you some easy to understand links for you. You will get some idea. Okay, so thank you very much, students. Let me download the attendance. Any doubts, students? Anything to discuss with me? No, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes for no or yes? No doubts. Can I end this session? I think why Deepak became silent nowadays. Our most enthusiastic student. Deepak, are you sleeping? Yeah. Okay. See you, students. Thank you very much.
Deepak is sleeping.
Yes, Deepak
Thank
is
you,
sleeping
sir.
only. He's not responding. Bad boy. Okay. Thank you very much, students. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.